Awesome. Hey guys, it's Syama Meagher, CEO of Scaling Retail, and I am just so honored and privileged to have the wonderful opportunity to speak with Tricia from Off-Price, the amazing trade show that you've been hearing about, but really wondering how on earth you're going to incorporate this new strategy and business model into, I would say, a new COVID retail atmosphere. So today we are going to talk a little bit about what's going on in retail. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the world of the future of retail, how business models are shifting and changing. And Tricia's going to give us the low down dirty, or I like to call the 411-911 on what it is we need to know about how to do this. And Tricia, before I ask you to introduce yourself, I'm just going to tell you guys, off-price doesn't seem so sexy, but making money is sexy. And so when we think about adding profit margin and when we think about something that is more profitable, having more money in the bank, certainly for me at least, is pretty sexy. And back in the day when I used to work in off-price and I was at Gucci, I have to tell you, Gucci wasn't so happy that our off-price division doubled in 2 years, becoming one of the fastest growing departments. They didn't like it so much, but you know what? They secretly loved it. It was the inner sexy. So today, Tricia, please introduce yourself and let's start talking about the not so sexy sexy.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Syama. We are super excited to be here today and just help people learn a little bit more about Off-Price. Like Syama said, my name is Tricia Barglof. I'm the executive director for the Off-Price Show. I've been with the show now for 18 years, so I've become very familiar with a lot of our exhibitors, a lot of the product, and the treasure hunt that it becomes, and a lot of those great items that you can find on the trade show floor. And we love to help new retailers find our show, find what they're looking for, and help educate them on how they can increase their profits.
Amazing. So, as we're kind of thinking about where, and it's hard to not address the elephant in the room here, which is like, holy crap, what's happening with trade shows? And then also, holy crap, what's happening with retail? And how are consumers spending? And, how are we framing the conversation around buying, and how are you even framing the conversation around liquidating or selling off merchandise? So I feel like there are so many directions that we can kind of cherry pick here. I just want to lead off the conversation with the fact that May saw an increase in retail sales from the month of April. Consumers are coming back to spending. We're still seeing the drop from this year to last year, but we're also seeing an upward trajectory. It seems like things are reopening, even though cases of COVID are increasing. There doesn't really seem to be a shift towards a second round of closing. In fact, we seem to be pushing forward. So with retail on the rebound and looking at how consumers are going to be shopping, let's push that then, I guess, a bit further through the lens of what are these buyers going to be selling when they kind of get their doors open. So talk to me, I guess, a little bit about what you're hearing from your buyers today. What are some of the questions and concerns that you're currently facing as leading the charge with this trade show?
Yeah, I think you've just hit the nail on the head on the $1 million question on what people are going to be buying right now. And so, like you said, there's a lot of different ways that this can go. But I think there's a lot of uncertainty because there's a lot of goods in the market right now. There's a lot of that spring merchandise that was left over when everybody had to close their stores down. Well, they had a whole new floor set full of brand new spring merchandise that now they're having to most likely mark down and try to move out of their stores, make room for the summer product that they have. So I think just in general, it's a shorter buying season. We've kind of written spring off, went right into summer, and now starting to look into the normal. If you look at the normal retail cycle, you would be thinking right now, summer sale, end of summer sale, early back to school stuff, and putting that out. So now you're starting to think about fall merchandise, but when everything shut down, there was a big disruption in the supply chain, and I don't know that a lot of that fall merchandise got to the retail store. So it's sitting out there somewhere. And a lot of our exhibitors do have that inventory available. And so I think one of the things that has changed right now, or that we can be sure of, is that buyers are looking to buy more short term. They're not planning out 6 months down the road. They're looking to see what they need to fill their stores a month from now, 6 weeks to 8 weeks from now. And that's really where our exhibitors can help a retailer, because a lot of their inventory that they have, it's actually in their warehouse and ready to ship. So they're able to help buyers in that short-term strategy that they're looking to try to, as we're all backpedaling and trying to figure out where we go from here. They're one resource certainly that can help retailers that are kind of struggling to figure out, well, now what do I put in my store?
Got it. I feel like you nailed just like a really important situation here, which is the buying cycles are changing. And I feel like in the last, 3-4 weeks, we've seen so much in at least our trade publications in the industry around how do we start to look at it from the perspective of the buyer, so the consumer, the buyer, the brands, right, or the vendors, and then ultimately the manufacturers. And there's kind of this entire cohesive conversation that is starting to happen in different spaces depending on where you're at, but you do have a very unique position, having been at this trade show for 18 years and having really seen how off-price and how these business models are operating. As we're looking into the rest of the year and we're looking at how, let's say from the perspective of a buyer, right, who's going, holy crap, I'm really nervous about placing huge buys. I'm really concerned about what consumers are going to be buying, not buying, the future of markdowns. How would you suggest that a buyer kind of take a look at assortment planning, and what can off-price, what can this trade show and these vendors in this market do to really help drive those decisions or support them?
I think the best way to answer that is that, a lot of the reason why off-price exists is because there's excess inventory in the market. So they've got inventory that for whatever reason an order, a few months ago wasn't, somebody canceled it or they produced too much, and they're left with this inventory. Well, in most buying cycles, they're buying 6 months down the road. So it's not last season stuff that our exhibitors currently have. It's stuff that you're looking to fill your stores right now. But the key there is that because it is excess, they're able to offer it at a pretty competitive price, not the regular wholesale price. So as everybody's starting to be cautiously optimistic to buy again, you can buy great product that's in season, on trend, a little bit below wholesale, and then maybe pass those savings on to your customers. I think that's one way that you can certainly help start generating some business in your store, is to try to pass on some savings by buying off-price wholesale. You can turn that over into your retail price and save your customers a little bit of money.
I think that's amazing. I feel like it's one of those secret sauces that like no one tells you is in your hamburger. You're like, oh, how did this become so much better? Like, what is that? What is that secret financial sauce?
Yes, exactly.
I was able to negotiate. And what I also think is great is because you're dealing with, in essence, this, ATS, if you will, and this kind of these immediates, you're likely able to negotiate on better minimum quantities, and you're able to negotiate better terms and deals on this product because the vendor is saying, hey, I've sold out as much as I could through my regular channels. And now I'm willing to just kind of move this out so I can get ready for the newness. So in terms of flexibility, would you say that there's more of an opportunity to negotiate at off price than maybe at a traditional, full price wholesale market?
Yeah, I think there's always the opportunity to negotiate in off-price. That is how our exhibitors do a lot of business, always based on quantities and sizes and, broken packs and pre-packs and things like that. So there's always opportunity to negotiate on pricing for sure.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And it's also so much more immediate. So have you been hearing, I guess, given the state of the economy, where buyers are at, I'm interested to hear kind of, inbound requests here, right? It's like, how do we participate? And given that now getting together in public is something that's rather challenging, right? It's this amazing confluence. You have this great business model now of providing to buyers the opportunity to get in-season product at a discount, which is so appropriate and needed at this time. And yet we're unable to kind of come together in that traditional, trade show environment. So what are some of the ways in which you guys are adapting to this new market, and how are you providing access right now?
Sure. It's actually somehow we must have had a crystal ball about 2 years ago when we launched OFFPRICE 365, which is our online marketplace. So we've actually had this online platform for the past 2 years where our exhibitors are posting product in various categories. So right now, a retailer can actually go on to offprice365.com and start doing a little bit of shopping and really educate themselves and see what off-price is all about, because it does say right on the website, what the regular wholesale price is, what the off-price wholesale price is, and it'll show you how you can benefit and what off-price can do for you. So that's something that we're currently offering, OFFPRICE 365. Now, as we move forward, we're in the process of rescheduling our August event to the end of September. And along with that, we are also launching an additional digital marketplace called OFFPRICE Online that essentially is taking the in-person trade show and bringing it online, where exhibitors will have their own digital showrooms where they can post products. We'll connect them to different retailers that are looking for the type of product that they have, and they can actually schedule one-to-one meetings, Zoom calls, or regular phone calls, that type of thing, right in that platform to try to help them source product that they're looking for.
It's pretty amazing. I'm also thinking right now of just, during this time of crisis, if you will, it feels like, I think Shopify said something about, a 64% increase in new online stores. Yeah. And, everyone's trying to figure out, for some reason, people I'm going to have a store as like a hobby, right? I'm going to put up a website. I'm going to all right, I'm going to go sell something.
Yep, I can do this.
And I think it's so interesting because we always wonder, well, how do you gain access to product, right? If I want to test market something, if I want to launch something, how do I have access? And one of the pieces of advice that I always tell people is, buy less than you think you do, negotiate the hell out of it, and spend a lot of money on marketing so you can actually see if your product concepts and ideas actually are working. And I really love the idea of looking at a place like OFFPRICE 360 to be able to kind of get access to products, to even kind of test and see how your consumers are responding, and to be able to do so in a way that's less financially intensive, if you will.
Yeah.
Super, super cool. So from the buyer's perspective, this is a total win because they're like, holy bananas, I can now buy all this stuff immediately. Talk to me a little bit about some of your vendors. Talk to me a little bit about how they approach looking at off-price. Do you tend to see a fluctuation in the vendors that end up showing at the show, meaning it kind of expands and contracts? Have you been noticing, based on what they have or what they don't have? Are you noticing new categories popping up? Tell me a little bit about assortment and vendors and how they decide and choose if off-price is right for them.
Sure. There's 100 different stories with our exhibitors and how they.
Okay, give me 5 stories, not 100. Give me 5.
So I'll try to narrow that down. So our exhibitors really do have a variety of men's, women's, kids, footwear, accessories. It really does span the spectrum of product available. And how our exhibitors find their product is really that they work on the relationships with brands, different vendors, suppliers, and things like that. And they're constantly working in the market, looking for this excess inventory that's out there it's hard to say for one specific exhibitor that every time you go there, they're going to have the same product assortment, the same brands, because we don't know what we don't know, right? So we know that they'll carry the brands because they've built those relationships with those specific brands to sell their off-price inventory. And you can always go back to those exhibitors and know that they'll have some brands, maybe not all of them, but similar, because similar brands because they have those relationships. But there's also a lot of exhibitors that are actually producing off-price products now, because a lot of times, and an example for that is a retailer looking to launch their own private label. And so that's a great opportunity for somebody to, if they're thinking about launching their own private label, these off-price exhibitors are able to produce it at a lower price. So you can test it in your store at a lower risk because you haven't invested as much money as a regular wholesale price. And so that's another opportunity for you to work with one of our exhibitors to come up with your own product line.
Interesting. That's super cool. You know, I love the idea of, I also think that private label is kind of one of those not so sexy
yeah
things, you know. It's like people don't want to talk about it, but it's like it should be talked about more often. Like it is, it's such an important component. I think it also is such a great way to test. It's a wonderful way to experiment, to increase your profit margins without having to spend a whole lot of money. That I think is probably one of my favorite not so secret things that I like to tell people. So when we're looking then at kind of the how off-price is growing, or almost the need for this kind of in the market, I feel like there just couldn't have been a better time for us to have this conversation, because where the industry is heading. Now, obviously, you've seen the evolution of off-price change over the last 18 years. You've seen how the market has adapted. Can you give me some highlights, you know, as almost a off-price historian, if you will, in terms of, you know, how you've seen the market shift and kind of how you've seen the importance of this type of industry change?
Yeah. You know, I think one of the biggest shifts is because off-price for so long was, you know, they took advantage of misorders or cancellations of orders. But over the years, brands have gotten a lot better about their inventory management with technology and data and things like that. So, you know, about, 10 years ago or so, when all of that excess inventory was really available and prevalent in the market, it kind of dried up because brands and manufacturers really weren't producing so much overrun because they'd gotten better internally about managing their systems. So our exhibitors have had to really find new avenues to still keep that off-price market going. And a big part of that is off-price production. So producing product for the off-price sector, because, you know, from a retail customer side, everybody's looking for a deal, right? Like you go out and say, oh my gosh, I love that top. Where'd you get it? Oh, I got it at so-and-so store and I got it 25% off. And so everybody's looking for a deal. And so I think our exhibitors have had to adapt over the years and come up with new opportunities, whether that's going to China on their own, right to the factories and finding the fabric that the brands are and can produce that. If they've started making their own label and things like that, that's how I think the biggest evolution has happened over the years, is that they've had to become more creative to find product to offer in that off-price sector.
That's really interesting. You know, I feel like as the world gets smaller in many ways, right, we've had to find all these different ways to innovate. And I guess as we're looking at kind of the trajectory of innovation, it really does feel to me like the retail sector will continue to shorten their lead times in terms of, you know, how they're buying merchandise. That to me just feels like something that is it's never going to change, right? Like now that we've kind of headed in this direction and that people are talking about it, feels like we're not going to be able to ever come back from that. You know, there's going to be a lot of pressure. As far as how you're seeing, and again, there are no crystal balls here. And personally, I think it's kind of fun to dream a little bit, right? So, you know, I'm a retail dreamer, but as we kind of think about, you know, how this pressure in the market is going to be affecting many of our manufacturers, right? Or how we're going to be affecting those things. I'm wondering, do you think we will all need to own our own factories if we want to do business? Like how is it that, or ideas that you might have, how is it that we're going to be able to, adequately have product in this really tight and increasingly high pressure retail and delivery cycle? Because certainly, one of the big questions has been, okay, well, we're not going to do runway shows anymore. We're not going to do, we're going to shift the way in which we look at buying and buy closer to when we need the product. But gosh, isn't that just a lot of pressure and liability for these vendors to produce, not knowing what it's like? Everyone's going to be running off of pseudo consignment businesses, right? Yeah, it's like, how do we actually know what's going to happen? What are your thoughts on what on earth these vendors are going to do?
I think the one suggestion, I guess, that I could give is that I think it's important to diversify. So if we ever come across something like this, where the supply chain's disrupted and your factory that's producing your product has closed down, well, here's a great opportunity for an off-price vendor to help you out in the interim until you get that supply chain with your manufacturer opening. So I think everybody needs to be a bit more open-minded about how they source their product and look at all different opportunities, whether it's online or taking trips out of the country to different factories and brands, and then also working with an off-price vendor that has that inventory that can do that quick turnaround and get you product in your store short term. So, I think I think the most important thing is you can't just do what you've always done. You need to open your mind a little bit and just look for new opportunities in any channel, any retail channel to source your product.
I love that. I think having an open mind is one of those things that in retail, it's kind of like technology. They're like the last to adapt. It's like, you're like, all right, guys, e-com, and then it's like takes them forever to kind of get to e-com, or I feel like retail, it's such a behemoth, and it's so hard to kind of break open channels or stereotypes of things, or different ways of hacking business models, right? Yeah. Like, how do you kind of hack a business model? In your experience, can you give me any anecdotes or stories of either vendors or buyers who you have seen really kind of hack their business models to take advantage and use off-price, in a way that you thought was, pretty clever or pretty smart?
Gosh, just to name one story, I can't think of one specifically, but what I would share is just, we hear a lot of people using accessories in the off-price market as one of those things where they'll come to the show, they find a great point of purchase item, those like bracelets or earrings, those impulse purchases that you'd put at your register. First time they'd been to off-price, see a great bracelet, for example, that they would typically wholesale for $12, sell for $24. And they found something almost identical to what they would have found through another channel. They bought it wholesale at off-price for $6, but can still charge that $24. And I think that's a great example of how off-price can help increase margin. And so when we hear those stories, we'll hear back from retailers that call us back and they're like, oh my gosh, why have I never heard of off-price before? I can do so much. The next time I come back, I'm going to be looking for this and this and this and this. And we're like, yes, the message got through. We've educated another retailer about how off-price can benefit your business. And so those are the stories that we love to hear in our office.
So let's say all of a sudden we got some really great buyers who are like, holy crap, I never even thought about going to off-price. Now I'm definitely going to check out the show. What are some ways, or go online and start to navigate as far as a first-time buyer approaching, this market and kind of really thinking about how to even navigate the brands, starting to think about what might be right for them, how they should think about it, what are some of the tools and resources and ways in which you guys are able to support people who are going to put their toe in the water for the first time because they're hearing about it today and they're like, all right, let's give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, I already mentioned one, our off-price marketplace, 365, off-price 365. So that is certainly one way. It's free to, as long as you're an accredited retailer, it's free for you to poke around in the website and just see what we have to offer. But we also have a team within our office that helps with that matchmaking. They work hand in hand, especially with new retailers that aren't quite sure about off-price. Please give us a call, visit us on our website, and we'll get you started and connect you with some of our exhibitors that we know have the product that you're looking for. We love to get people started off on the right foot, because if we don't have these tools in place, it can be overwhelming because there's a lot of SKUs available in the off-price market, and you can get easily intimidated when you don't immediately find what you're looking for. So we would love to try to educate and help people right off the bat through our matchmaking program and through OFFPRICE 365 and just our website in general, trying to help people find what they're looking for.
You know, I feel like matchmaking is such an important part of that kind of concierge service.
Yes.
Really being able to help people identify. I mean, I remember just from my days as a buyer walking any sort of trade show, it's like,
it's intense.
It's so intense. It's terrifying. I am a pretty social person and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't even deal. Like so much
overload. Yeah.
So overloady. It's like, you don't know who to talk to. You don't know how to navigate the brands. Like, and I feel like trade shows are getting better at making it easier to navigate. And when you're kind of looking, I guess, at the brands that you're sourcing or kind of featuring, are you guys looking in terms of any sort of particular groupings, right? Do you guys have any special sections for, you know, new trend brands, or brands that are, you know, focused on sustainability, or brands that are focused, you know, in these different sectors? You know, I've been seeing so much around like, how do we take these like hundreds of vendors and make it easy to digest? How are you guys helping to support that?
Sure. One section that we launched just over a year ago is called our boutique section. Not specifically meant for a boutique, you know, but what that section means is that it's an elevated price point within off-price. And so we're finding a lot more people are coming to the off-price market looking for those higher quality goods, brands, sustainability, like you mentioned, and they do come at a higher cost. So that is our section that we promote as the entering wholesale price at $15 and higher. So that's one way that we're kind of highlighting those unique companies that are carrying high quality merchandise that they're looking to sell through the off-price channel.
I think that's awesome, because as a buyer, that's exactly what I do. I'd be like, Trisha, what's the easiest way for me to get in and out as fast as possible, make the appointments I need, talk to who I need to talk to, and then, you know, go hang out in Vegas.
Yeah.
Which honestly is one of the reasons why we all go anyway. So we're like, right, let's go do our buys, and let's hang out and have cocktails at the Cosmopolitan.
Exactly.
I'd say in our industry is definitely a perk, I guess.
It certainly is.
I love that.
Yeah.
So as you're kind of thinking, I guess, about, you know, the business modeling aspect, how the show is kind of set up and navigated, you know, first time people, buyers, how they're able to interact. When you're thinking about sourcing the exhibitors or working with new exhibitors, what are the things that you're looking for when it comes to understanding if an exhibitor should be considering to show at the trade show? And what are some things that they should be willing to, you know, anticipate, expect as a first-time exhibitor?
Sure. You know, we do put, when somebody's interested in exhibiting with us, we do put them through an application process just to understand what type of product that they're bringing to the show, just to make sure that we don't have that category oversaturated, because we want any new exhibitor to be successful. And if we've got an overabundance of a certain category that they're looking to bring to our show, it might not be the best fit for you because we've already kind of got that covered. So with that being said, if they've got a unique product or something that we don't currently carry on the show floor, we'll certainly work with them to understand who they're already selling to, just to check some references to make sure that they are, you know, well respected, at least within their industry, from the buying industry. So that they're validated and a buyer can come to our show and know that they're a reputable exhibitor, will ship when they say those types of things. So those are the things that we would expect, or what an exhibitor can expect. The other thing is, we're going to ask, who are you looking to sell to? That our sales team certainly works really hard to connect. We also connected on the exhibitor side as well. So we want to know who the exhibitor is looking to get in front of. And if those retailers are working with us, we're going to work with that exhibitor to get them to meet that retailer. We'll make the introduction, and then it's up to you to try to work to sell them what you're bringing to the show. So we do the matchmaking sort of two ways. We do it on the retailer side, try to help them what they're looking for, and also help the exhibitors with the reason why they're trying to come to Off-Price. They're trying to open up new accounts and open new business. And you know, we've got the contacts within that retail industry and that sector that we would love. I mean, it benefits everybody if we can connect everybody and they find the product that they're looking for, and exhibitor sells the product that they're looking to sell. So we just try to facilitate that as best we can.
Retail matchmakers. I mean, that's take that, Tinder. No.
Yeah.
I love that. I would say when I work with brands and they're thinking of entering a trade show for the first time, I always really try to prepare them all with the amount of work that it takes to go into establishing themselves at a trade show. You know, yes, you can spend money and show up at the trade show, but if you haven't been seeding the market or doing the prep work and getting your brand, reaching out to the buyers and letting people know where you're at and kind of how you're showing up, and sending the emails, and, you know, there's a whole host of preparation that it takes before you get to the trade show in order to really maximize juicing it, right? It's like, we think about showing up. Yeah, you can show up, but if people don't know that you're there, or you haven't done the legwork, you're actually not going to yield the highest results. Mm-hmm. And the second thing that I always mention to brands is, you can't just go to a trade show once and expect for it to be, you know, an automatic success. Oftentimes buyers are looking to see, you know, you there a few seasons. And, you know, I imagine though, possibly with your market, maybe it's a little different, right? I mean, are buyers still looking for that kind of consistency at the trade show? Or are they just kind of ready to show up and like, okay, what is hot and what can I buy right now? Like, would those same principles kind of hold true for you?
Yeah, I would say yes. They certainly are looking for that consistency, but we hear a lot of times, you know, when we ask retailers for how they use Off-Price and what they would suggest to other retailers that are coming for the first time, they suggest walking every aisle of the show, because you never know what key piece or treasure that you're going to find, you know, maybe in a less traffic area. That can really increase your profits or help you increase your profits. So while yes, retailers, I believe, are looking for that consistent exhibitors, and they will have their vendors when they're coming to our show, they're also looking to book some extra time to walk those aisles and find those new vendors that they've never worked with before, to see if they can find something new and interesting to bring into their store.
I love that. And when you're looking at kind of the volume of the exhibitors, or the SKU count, or kind of, you know, how they're showing up, you know, I mean, I know for other trade shows, it's like, I've had some brands where I'm like, hey, you don't have enough. Like, don't bother. Like, it's yes, you'll meet some people, but like, is it worth it, you know, if you don't have enough inventory? So as you're kind of looking at exhibitors and also their historical relevancy, right? How long they've been around, what their inventory looks like. Is it, you know, more advantageous, or do you have any thoughts on, you know, what their inventory positioning ought to look like, or kind of what they should have? Or is it really kind of, hey, bring what you got and see what you can move?
You know, there are a lot of SKUs on our floor because, and the simple reason for that is that it is inventory that our exhibitors have on hand right now. So they want to bring what they have because they're trying to move that product out of their warehouse and get ready for the next season. So, you know, we're different in the fact that, you know, some other trade shows, they're bringing their next season line and just have produced a few SKUs. Well, because everybody has this inventory in hand in their warehouse, we end up with a lot more SKUs and a lot more opportunities for people at our show. So it is kind of one of those things where you want to bring what you want to sell because it is an order writing show. People are writing their purchase orders right on our trade show floor. So I do encourage people to bring what they have because you never know who's looking for that certain type of product. So yes, bring what you have.
Bring it all.
Yeah.
It's time to move goods.
Yeah.
I you know, I can just imagine that there might be a lot of brands right now that are saying to themselves,
yeah, I would imagine.
Like, I'm ready, Trisha. What do I
Yes.
sign up? How do I get myself on? So let's talk a little bit about like getting yourself on the digital platform. So if I'm a brand and I'm like, holy bananas, I've got all this inventory, this is now a new channel for me to think about exploring. You know, what would be the time frame or process for someone to go from outreaching to you guys to getting themselves up on OFFPRICE 360?
You know, we want to help you sell your merchandise. So we're going to get you up and running as quickly as possible. So once you reach out to us, our team will reach right back to you, start vetting you, making sure that this is the right channel. And we have, you know, the connections that will help you be successful. Once we figure that out between the vendor and our team, we'll offer you access to 365 so that you can put an introductory trial period just to see if it is right for you, because we've got people, retailers more than ever shopping 365 because nobody's traveling to market or to New York or LA right now. So that's how they're having to source a lot of new products is online. And so we want to get you access to that as quickly as we can. So once we make sure that it's the right fit for you, we'll get you access. You'll have to start posting pictures and product information, things like that. And it does turn around fairly quickly.
That's amazing. You know, I love that. In terms of how you're noticing digital traffic to OFFPRICE 360, are there any particular categories that you're noticing are really moving right now? Any sort of requests from buyers that you're noticing?
I think it's unique to every retailer because everybody has been impacted on what they were expecting in their store and are now having to scramble to try to find what they're looking for. So, you know, it's been a lot of kids, I think, because kids grow from size to size. So there's probably quite a bit of that merchandise that retailers are looking for, but also men's and women's. You know, especially fall merchandise, because I think that's that early fall, late summer, early fall time frame in the buying process has probably been most impacted. So we hear a lot of people really working hard to find fall product right now. So that's what you'll find retailers, I think, looking a lot for right now.
Awesome. Yeah. They're like, because they probably got nervous. I mean, I remember hearing when Gap was like, yeah, we've halted all new inventory going into, I think they were like into Q4 is when they were next expecting their big delivery. And it's those kinds of things, when we hear about that, it's terrifying because it just means that there's going to be a backlog somewhere, right? There's going to be some sort of stagnation in the market, and then you see over flooding of things, and then it's like, where are the channels of release? And so I think what's so interesting is that OFFPRICE becomes like this this valve, where you can release the pressure and let inventory go. I think the other interesting thing is really looking at new products and how you can almost introduce something that's new, that's not new, right? Or almost like something that is, I imagine vendors have not only stuff that's in season ATS, but also older stuff, and kind of looking at a blend of goods. One of the things that's fascinating is if it can be new to me, but not new to you. And when we're looking at kind of trend and direction, I think that that's also something that we're going to see, especially as seasonality shifts. We're looking at, how do we decrease, the focus of selling summer goods on sale when everyone should be buying summer goods at full price. It's such an interesting retail calendar, and I think shift that we're moving into. And honestly, I don't know exactly where it will go. I definitely see with the openings of stores again, and people starting to shop in a new and somewhat, socially distant way. It feels like we're all getting that personal shopper experience that none of us could afford before.
Exactly.
We're like, hey, okay, now you have to make an appointment to go into a store. And I'm like, wow, never thought I would be, worthy.
I feel fancy.
Exactly. I'm like, wow, okay, I guess I get a personal shopper, and who knows what I'm buying. So there is going to be this kind of, shift towards how consumers shop, but also how we look at what experiential means, as we look at kind of the value that people are placing on the goods that they buy, and, looking for products that are going to last, and things that kind of have an impression. And honestly, with everyone still on Zoom calls, I feel like there's going to be this big shift towards, pants down, no one knows, right? But we're going to need a lot of accessories. So I feel like there's a whole black box of things that we have yet to anticipate. As you're looking towards the future of, the trade show, and of, how you're seeing it grow, who knows? You might be with Off-Price for another 20 years or so. Like you may become an Off-Price veteran. If you could kind of see how you would like to take it, or even almost like dream with me where you think the future of this trade show goes. What does that look like, and how do you kind of dream its future? Because now it feels like you're kind of opening up this black box and letting people know, hey, we're here, here's what we can do for you.
I think people are gonna just in general take less time and want to be more efficient with their time. And so we really try to make ourselves that one-stop shop. So, we're not just a women's show, we're not just a footwear show or a men's show or whatever category it is. But if you're looking to bring in some gift items around the holidays, that type of thing, we want to be that resource for somebody that's looking to buy a few home and gifty items in their store. Maybe they're looking to introduce the beauty category into their store. We want to be that resource for you to try to help you source some of that product. And so, to take advantage of people's time, because they don't have a lot of it nowadays, we're busier than ever, I feel like, we really try to help a buyer maximize their time at our show. And that's how we do it, is trying to introduce new categories that can help a retailer just do the one-stop shop.
I love that. So when you're talking about new categories, one area that I've been so interested in is health and wellness and beauty. That really just seems to be, in the last 5 years, one of the major categories that's emerged. Obviously, well-being, kind of health, wellness, well-being, beauty. Where are you kind of seeing these category trends, not only within Off-Price, but in the industry?
Yeah, I think health and wellness is certainly one of them, and it's not going away. Athleisure's kind of been around, it feels like, for a really long time now. So that I think will still certainly continue, especially as I think more people will most likely continue to work from home after the world and economy opens back up again. So that's certainly a category. I think like I touched on, home and gift, beauty, that goes into that, health and wellness. The other part, you know, you hear a lot of times is resale and sustainability. You touched on that a little bit earlier. You know, you've heard a lot about that just before everything, before the pandemic hit. And that has really been a growing category, and think that will continue over the next few years as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, like I have to tell you, during this pandemic, I bought 3 sweatsuits,
Yeah.
like matching. Like it was
Yes.
like ridiculous. Like it was like I would take a walk around the neighborhood in like a powder blue, like geriatric looking sweatsuit. I gotta say, I think we've all become different kinds of shoppers.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. We're buying cute dresses before to go out to dinner or to, you know, for drinks that night. And now we're working on that athleisure, comfy pant look that we're just going to go out and have a walk, like you said.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and so also, you know, that kind of skincare beauty
Mhm.
is important. I mean, in this, you know, I want to say kind of this Zoom like digital overload era, everyone's like, oh, there's another Zoom meeting. Oh, there's
Yes.
another
Yes.
this. I have to at least look good from the waist up.
Yes.
I think that the consumer spending is really shifting towards these ways in which we're able to present ourselves in the ways we need to, right?
Yeah.
And how do we kind of have that return to luxury, which is quality of time, and you know, being with the people that we love, and you know, being able to return back to those things that hold the most value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I think it's also self-care too. You know, everybody, we've been at home, and it's been a good time to think about yourself and how you can get through life, and you know, with a little less stress, and you know, feeling a bit better about yourself. You know, and so I think that's important too.
So how have you been able to take care of yourself in the last couple months? It cannot have been easy to be mitigating all of this stuff while figuring out the trade show. I know you recently had a birthday, and you
Yeah.
know there's so many things that have been happening the last few months. What has been in your secret stash of keeping your stuff together?
Yes. Well, you know, gosh, I would say for me, working out is probably the best thing to help me keep my sanity. Whether it's just going out for a long walk on a sunny day, just to kind of clear your head and de-stress from the immediate problems in your future, you know, and sitting in front of you. Or yoga, or even just running. I kind of picked that back up over the past couple of months. So
How's your
since we've been
running?
at home, I can't go to the gym. So I've had to figure out other ways to get my fitness in. So that's kind of
That's
what I've been doing
awesome.
over the
That's
past couple
like
months.
I think that for the first month of quarantine, I think I tried to order some weights on Amazon and it was back
Oh,
for 6 months. You know,
yeah, you
it's
still
like
can't find them. I'm still looking for some weights. So let me
we
know
gotta
if you find
contact
them.
some vendors. Okay, we need to get the ATS on the
Yeah.
dumbbells. All right,
Yeah.
there's no category that you guys should not be selling. So
Yes.
I'm gonna say fitness products, Trisha. That might be
Yes. Yes.
at home fitness might be my personal request here. As you kind of walk the show and you get a chance to, you know, meet buyers and get to meet vendors, I'm sure that you've had some really magical experiences of being able to meet some incredible people. And I think trade shows are a wonderful way to be able to do that and to bridge connection and relationships. How has your team been doing as far as, you know, managing everything together and, you know, bridging teamwork? I feel that it is so interesting now as we're all kind of looking at human connection and, you know, trade shows were things people really looked forward to for human connection. And when you're
Yeah.
when you're in Chicago and your vendors in, California, you guys get to meet in the space and get to bridge relationships. And, so much business is done over face-to-face interaction. It feels like the Off-Price 360 platform is really helping to kind of drive that digital exchange. How are you doing it internally with your team? How are things going with team building and human connection?
Yeah, our team is great. They certainly feel for everybody in the industry because they know that their clients and people that they talk to on a daily basis have really been impacted by this, and so they feel that pain and stress from our vendors and retailers, and just want to do everything that they can to help. So we talk a lot about what we can do to be helping the industry. How can we be a resource to anybody? And so we've been working really hard on that. And we do it through Zoom meetings. We have a weekly happy hour that we do all sorts of different fun games.
I want to come. Hey, where's my invite
now? So, we try to do some of those team building activities just to try to keep everybody's mood up and spirits lifted. Just checking in on everybody on a daily and weekly basis, just to make sure, we all have our tough days, and we try to get through it as best we can. So, there's various ways, whether it's Zoom, phone calls. Now we're working on a virtual 5K for all of us to do together, distanced. So that's just kind of the latest thing that we've been doing. So
that's amazing. I feel like, when you're leading a team and when you're responsible for keeping spirits up and being a guiding light, for so many people, because when you're the head of a trade show and you're impacting vendors, buyers, your staff, I mean, everyone's kind of wondering in this chaotic part of the world right now, how do we all maintain connection? How do we maintain a sense of community? And how do we continue to move forward? And one of the most interesting things I have found is that retail seems to be this very special sector in the world. Retail touches manufacturing, so it touches the people who make the goods, it touches the people who are brokering the sale, it touches the vendors, the buyers, consumers. It's just such this pervasive thing in the world, and we all kind of suffer together. It's like we're all in it together, whereas other sectors feel like they are less connected. I feel like sometimes it's a part of why the industry is so challenging, because we're all so connected. But then also it's one of the most beautiful reasons of how we're all connected. Have there been any interesting stories or things that you've been hearing from any of your vendors or any of your buyers on how they're managing this crisis?
Yeah, I think some of the great stories when initially the world shut down was that, our guys they produce, and they're able to find opportunities, and they have connections. And so, when it first came out that there was a shortage of PPE masks and things like that, they jumped right on it with their production lines and have now started producing PPE and shipping out to first responders and things like that. And so there's been a lot of great stories on how they're helping in our exhibitors are helping in their local communities. And, we've tried to do that with our team as well as, purchase PPE from one of our vendors, and then turned around and donated that to some of our local first responders, healthcare workers, and things like that. So I think that was just one of the things when this all initially kicked off, is our exhibitors pivoted and adapted to do what they could to help, because they wanted to. And so that was, I think, one of the great stories that has kind of come out of this, how they've been able to impact their local communities.
I love that. It's really, it's special. It was really special to hear that when the world was in crisis, so many brands and manufacturers stepped up their game to provide for their community, to provide for frontline workers. It's like the resiliency of who we are in this industry. Sometimes, retail fashion gets a bad reputation, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there are amazing things that kind of
Yeah.
come out of it. So Trisha, have I missed anything so far on any of the major components? I mean, I feel like it's pretty evident as we're kind of unpacking the role of off price, kind of how it leverages to the advantage of the buyers, how it leverages to the advantage of the vendors, kind of the components that go into it, and certainly how you guys are adapting into the market as we look at the 360 and digital ways of connecting. Are there any key components that you think would really help someone decide, you know, this is a show that I belong at, that I need to visit, this is for me, or this is not for me, right? Like, what might be a reason that someone would say, you know, off price, you know, maybe not a show I should go to? How would you self-select in this process?
You know, I think that, you know, I think there's something for everybody, quite honestly, and it's going to be different for everybody on what they need. And so I would encourage everybody to at least educate yourself and give it a shot and see what there is. Let our team do the work for you and try to help you figure out how off price can benefit you. Because if you don't do your homework, and if you don't do your homework, and if you don't do your research, it won't be for you, because you do need to be prepared, and you do need to be educated. And our team's there to help with that through our website, offpriceshow.com. And, you know, just always just reaching out to us. And we love to try to help people as best we can and educate them on off price.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, I love that you guys carry so many different categories. I think that oftentimes, you know, what we've seen in the historical trajectory of trade shows is this is the only thing that we carry, or this is the thing that we're known for. And what that causes for buyers is a huge pain in the tuchus, as they have to navigate so many different places, and, you know, and try to get around and figure out where everyone is. And, you know, the ability to kind of fully stock, if you wanted to, a store through buying kind of in-season merchandise across multiple categories is rare, unique, and very special. And furthermore, to be able to do it with the immediacy. You know, if I were to kind of sum up the biggest benefit to a retailer right now, is that you actually have the ability to impact your business today, as opposed to waiting to impact your business tomorrow. And in our traditional buying cycles, we simply just don't have, you know, we're not built like that, right? It's like, it doesn't historically exist in that way. So that, to me, I think as we're kind of looking to the future, is going to have so much more importance. So speaking of space and more importance in it growing, I mean, coming out of COVID, I imagine you guys are going to need a huge space. You're going to need to be able to house all these new vendors. Can't imagine a vendor not saying, yes, we need to be here, and, you know, this is something we need to look forward to and really plan out thoroughly. In terms of your timelines for accepting applications to be a vendor, you know, if someone were to say, hey, holy crap, I really need to do this, knowing that the show is being postponed, how much time does someone have to prepare for an application? What are your cutoff points? And what would be those next steps?
You know, I would say the sooner that you join us, the better, because we do a lot of pre-show marketing and to promote your product, especially new vendors. We do a lot of work through lookbooks, you know, e-newsletters, that type of thing, to really push and promote new product that's coming to the show. So the sooner that we know that you're coming and know what product you're bringing with you, the more time we have to actually promote your business. So with that being said, we tend to sell space up until the show. So there is no real cutoff. Although I would say, you know, there's always some production that needs to go in with signage, our mobile app, our website, you know, that we want to make sure that your name gets out there and things like that. So I wouldn't leave it too late, but we certainly welcome anybody at any time.
Awesome. That's really good to know, because I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to be showing, and they're going to be like, all right, we're ready. Here's where we're going. I mean, you know, I've been keeping on tabs with what's been happening with production and factories opening, and, you know, a lot of factories shut down around March, you know, end of February, starting around March. And, you know, brands had stuff that was in queue that was supposed to be, you know, getting ready to ship. A lot of things got pushed back. There were some issues around, you know, this backlog now, and all of a sudden things are going to open and there's going to be a flood, and people are going to wonder, how do I get this product out there?
Yeah.
So my fingers are crossed for some amazing brands, so many more amazing brands than ever, to be able to hit the selling floor. And honestly, I think the need for retailers to be able to introduce this type of revenue stream is one that, to be honest, I have to say I hadn't really considered so much more in the past. You know, it's like something where you're like, yeah, that sounds interesting, and then you go, huh, like this is how it really works, and this is how I can make it work for my business. And that, I think, is important. I think all too often people associate the term off price with, like, I'm opening up a TJ Maxx. And that's not what's happening, right? It's like, yes, you could certainly shop the show and just buy heavily discounted and operate on a model like that, if that is your choice, that's your decision, but that's not necessitating that. It's really saying, yes, you can continue to have your full price product. You can then pad in that full price product with some additional immediates at a better discount, at a better price, in order to kind of service that customer and protect your business. So that, I think, is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, I think, like you said, you don't have to be an entire off-price store to shop off-price, but if you put a little strategy into your profit margins, you can find those few key pieces that will increase your profit, and you can still work to buy those investment pieces where you may not make as much profit, and those things kind of offset. So I think it's important to have some of this off-price merchandise in your store, just to try to help with those few risky pieces that you want to introduce to your customers.
Awesome. Trisha, thank you for all that you've been able to do in this industry. I want to say thank you for your service to the retail industry. You know, there's like I feel like there must be an MVP award here for carrying the torch forward in an industry that, again, is like the not so sexy. There's got to be some award for that. So let's see if we can get you one. For everyone out there who's watching this on YouTube, is interested in participating with the digital platform, the OFFPRICE 360 platform, I think, is really an amazing opportunity for so many different brands to be able to participate. So offprice365.com, offpriceshow.com, in order to kind of best further engage and to kind of leave everyone some parting thoughts here. Off-price is really just for just about everybody. And so the notion that you need to have a specific business model, the notion that you need to have a certain kind of outward facing brand persona is simply not the case. You know, making money is sexy. Driving a healthier bottom line is very sexy, and therefore off-price is sexy. Yeah. Trisha, are there any final words that I can grab you on camera with?
No, I just thank you so much for letting us try to educate your audience about off-price, because I do think there is an opportunity for a lot of businesses to make some more money. And so we would love to try to help anybody and educate them on off-price and how we can help.
Amazing. Thank you, Trisha. Thank you for your time today. Yes. I look forward to connecting with you, hopefully on a socially distanced cocktail, if not sooner than on your Zoom happy hours.
Love it.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Take care.